Helping people understand history and how it keeps repeating itself. The brainwashing of people, we're here to unhypnotize. Open your eyes and mind. See how you can be the change. Topics include MKO to Plato, or allegory of the cave. Montauk Project Mandela effect. The problem with using labels and other topics that are considered conspiracy theories.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Back to Light. Tonight, we're going to take a closer look at authority and how it quietly shapes what we believe without even us realizing it. How much of what you believe do you actually choose? And what if some of your beliefs weren't carefully considered, but quietly handed to you? And now I present Article 6. The authority bias is the tendency for individuals and communities to attribute greater accuracy to the opinion or judgment of authority figures, and therefore be more influenced by those opinions and judgments. The Milgram obedience experiment tested the internal conflict between conscious and one's inclination to obey authority, finding people will be more likely to obey others and deny their own instincts. Were we conditioned to this bias? Did we accept the opinions of doctors during the C-19 pandemic? Did we listen to the analysis of qualified structural engineers on 9/11? When a plane crash occurs, do we question the conclusions reached by air accident engineering inspectors? Did we trust agencies like NASA and NATO or the WHO? What about clever advertising slogans like clinically proven, dermatologically tested, or anything linked with the Mayo Clinic? Are we less likely to accept the opinions of someone who researched and studied a subject informally for 40 years over someone with a college degree in the same field? Do we purchase a brand name item because it is endorsed by someone who we perceive to be more knowledgeable on the subject? Do we have authority bias?
Have you ever found yourself agreeing with someone just because of their title, or nodding along with a recommendation simply because it came from a seemingly influential person? We often defer to expertise, and for good reason. It can simplify complex decisions and save us valuable time. But what happens when that deference becomes automatic, when we stop critically evaluating information because of who it's coming from? Today, we're going to explore a fascinating and often subtle aspect of human psychology known as authority bias. It's a powerful cognitive shortcut that influences our decisions, our beliefs, and even our actions, sometimes without us even realizing it. Understanding this bias isn't about fostering cynicism, it's about empowering ourselves to make more informed, independent choices in a world full of influences. At its heart, authority bias is our natural tendency to give undue weight and credibility to the opinions, judgments, and directives of individuals we perceive as authority figures. Think about it. A doctor, a professor, a CEO, a police officer, or even someone with a strong social media following. Their words often carry more weight, not necessarily because of the content, but because of the perceived status of the messenger. Our brains, in an effort to conserve energy, automatically assign greater credibility to information from these perceived authorities, often leading to uncritical acceptance and blind obedience. Where does this bias come from? It's not just a quirk of modern life, its roots run deep. For starters, we're socialized from a very young age to respect and obey authority figures. Parents, teachers, and law enforcement all play a role in teaching us to follow rules and respect established hierarchies. This conditioning creates a default setting in our minds. Then there are evolutionary factors. Historically, following powerful or experienced individuals likely offered survival advantages. In tribal settings, deferring to the elder or the strongest hunter could mean the difference between life and death. This ancient programming still hums beneath the surface of our modern brains. Cognitive efficiency is another big piece of the puzzle. Life is complex, and we're constantly bombarded with information. Relying on an authority figure simplifies decision-making. If an expert says something is true, accepting it saves us the effort of thorough independent evaluation. It's a mental shortcut that helps us navigate an overwhelming world. And finally, there's something called system justification theory, a psychological motivation to view existing authority as legitimate, which further contributes to our acceptance and obedience. We prefer to believe the systems and the people in charge are fair and competent. So, how does authority bias manifest in our everyday lives? The examples are endless. Consider the workplace. The highest paid person's opinion, or HIPPO phenomenon, illustrates how decisions are often swayed by the most senior person in the room, regardless of who has the best idea. In marketing, we constantly see expert or celebrity endorsements, like dermatologist-approved claims, leveraging this bias to influence our purchasing decisions. Healthcare provides some particularly stark examples. The infamous Hoffling Hospital experiment in 1966 showed nurses administering dangerous drug doses when ordered to do so over the phone by doctors they didn't even know, highlighting the powerful sway of medical authority. Similarly, political figures often influence public perception and behavior through their comments simply by virtue of their position. We've seen countless instances where high-ranking individuals can sway narratives and opinions, sometimes causing people to question their own critical judgment.
The foundational research on authority bias comes from Stanley Milgram's controversial obedience experiments at Yale University in the early 1960s. These studies shockingly demonstrated individuals' extreme willingness to obey an authority figure, even when it conflicted with their personal conscience and seemed to inflict harm on another person. While ethically debated, Milgram's work provided undeniable evidence of how deeply ingrained this bias is within us. This bias rarely acts alone. It often interacts with other cognitive biases, like social proof, where we're influenced by what others are doing, the halo effect, where a positive impression in one area bleeds into others, or scarcity bias, making something seem more valuable if it's limited. When these biases combine, the power of influence can be even stronger. Unfortunately, this powerful psychological tendency can be, and often is, exploited. Companies like Gerber have faced penalties for falsely advertising health benefits using implied authority. Conversely, Hyundai successfully leveraged celebrity endorsements to boost sales. Historically, the tobacco industry notoriously used doctors in advertisements to promote cigarettes, a chilling example of exploiting trust in authority. These examples underscore the dual nature of perceived authority. It can guide, but it can also manipulate. This exploitation raises significant ethical concerns. Deliberately leveraging authority bias, especially through deceptive practices like fabricating credentials or false claims, erodes trust and stifles critical thinking. It can lead to the perpetuation of misinformation, create inflated expectations, and ultimately result in poor decision-making. Understanding that authority, even perceived authority, can be fragile and dynamic is key. When figures once seen as unassailable authorities face challenges to their credibility, it reveals how quickly public perception can shift. Similarly, when controversial narratives are asserted with an air of authority, it challenges us to distinguish between genuine expertise and manipulative rhetoric. So, the crucial question for us is, how do we distinguish between beneficial deference to legitimate authority, like following your qualified doctor's advice for your health, and blind obedience that can lead to manipulation or suboptimal decisions? The answer lies in cultivating critical thinking. Here are some actionable steps we can all take. First, always question the source. Who is this person? What are their credentials? Are they truly an expert in this specific area? Second, seek diverse perspectives. Don't rely on just one authority, no matter how reputable they seem. Cross-reference information, look for dissenting opinions, and consider multiple viewpoints. Third, and perhaps most importantly, actively question the information itself. Does it make logical sense? Is there evidence to support it? Even if it comes from someone you deeply respect, engage your own critical faculties. Understanding authority bias isn't about becoming a skeptic of all expertise. It's about becoming a discerning consumer of information. It's about recognizing the psychological shortcuts our brains take and consciously choosing to engage our critical thinking when it matters most. By doing so, we empower ourselves to make more intentional, evidence-based decisions, rather than simply defaulting to what a perceived authority tells us.
Here's something that most people never take notice when making a decision. That quiet voice of authority. It is not in the headlines or dramatic speeches, not even in flashy alerts. It happens in the pause. The instant a voice sounds confident and something inside you relaxes. And this isn't because you've actually verified it or that you've thought it through, but because authority feels certain and certainty comforts us. And that's where inner strain might begin. Because humans crave certainty, even when our own inner voice whispers, "Wait, is this right?" We don't always follow it. Tonight, we're going to explore that feeling and response. We'll trace it through history, institutions, and our daily lives. And we'll rediscover how, with awareness, we can reclaim our critical thinking skills. Think about those quiet moments in your own life. The nod of a teacher, a doctor's confident tone, the repeated phrases from the news. How often do you pause? How often do you just absorb it, trusting that calm, assertive presence? That pause itself is either the beginning of authority shaping your thoughts or you using your own thoughts. Authority bias is ancient. It's survival. Imagine early humans. A respected elder warns, "Don't eat that berry." You listen. Because hesitation could have meant death. Authority wasn't influence. It was life itself. And that instinct didn't disappear. It evolved. Today, authority wears many different faces. We trust the voices of people in lab coats that have diplomas, badges, podiums, microphones, and, of course, media outlets. Let's start with the Milgram obedience experiment. In the 1960s, a psychologist, Stanley Milgram, conducted an experiment to see how far ordinary people would go in obeying authority, even when asked to harm another person. Participants were told that they were part of a study on learning and memory. They were assigned the role of teacher and instructed to administer increasingly strong electrical shocks to a learner whenever an incorrect answer was given. Unbeknownst to the teacher, the learner was an actor and no real shocks were delivered. However, the teacher did not know this. As the shocks intensified, the learner would scream, plead, or even fall silent. Many participants hesitated, showing discomfort. But when the experimenter, an authority figure in a lab coat, encouraged them to continue, most did. Some went to the maximum shock level, despite audible distress. This experiment revealed the profound power of perceived authority. The presence of a confident, direct figure could override deeply held personal ethics. Next, we can look at the Asch conformity experiments. Solomon Asch tested how social pressure affects judgment. Participants were asked to match the length of lines on a card. Confederates in the group intentionally gave wrong answers. Even when the correct answer was obvious, participants often conformed to the group's incorrect choice. About 1/3 of the time, people went along with the group, demonstrating that societal consensus and perceived authority can strongly influence individual judgment. Another experiment that shows authority bias. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo staged a simulation of a prison environment. Volunteers were randomly assigned as guards or prisoners. Within days, guards began exhibiting authoritarian and abusive behaviors. Prisoners became submissive and distressed. The experiment revealed that assigned authority and role expectations could lead ordinary people to engage in actions they would not normally consider, highlighting the situational power of perceived authority. Seems will obey a lab coat when asked to shock a stranger, but argue endlessly over a misplaced coffee order. Absurd, yet revealing. Authority is often subtle. It doesn't always come with a warning or a badge. Sometimes it's that quiet certainty in a neighbor's voice. The way a confident friend states something as fact. Your brain is tuned to notice certainty, and sometimes that can override careful judgment. Now let's take a look at a different event in history. September 11th, 2001. Plane struck towers in Manhattan. Chaos spread instantly. Voices filled the silence. News anchors, officials and their experts. Their confidence shaped perception. Certainty anchored a world in shock. Yet, behind the scenes, questions remained. Conflicting data, dissenting experts. Still, in the moment, questioning authority felt destabilizing, uncomfortable, and risky. Millions accepted what they were told because our human brains seek grounding. Do you remember watching the towers fall? The fear, the grief, endless coverage? Each authoritative voice gave context, explanation, and shaped the narrative. Most people didn't pause to consider alternatives. The desire for certainty in that moment was overwhelming. Now we're going to fast forward to a few years ago. 2020, a global pandemic changed daily life. Doctors, scientists, and public health agencies delivered urgent guidance, lockdowns, masks, vaccine schedules. Our lives shifted overnight. Families adjusted, careers were paused, decisions carried weight. Many followed, guided by credible authority and the high stakes. Others questioned quietly, balancing instinct and social responsibility. Every day, millions faced decisions with no easy answers. Should I send my children to school? Should I work from home? Should I trust the projections of my intuition? But that quiet pull of authority influenced choices, which leads us into everyday life. Imagine for a moment a patient hearing, "You have cancer." Prognosis, limited time. Life decisions now carry irreversible consequences. They have to think about treatment, family, finances, and even hope. Even routine diagnoses subtly influence behavior. Patients follow the recommendations because the authority feels definitive, and doubt carries perceived cost. Small decisions framed by authority shape entire life trajectories. Reflection is vital, but seldom often used. A single doctor's statement can alter decades of life. even minor suggestions, medication, lifestyle, these all have a ripple effect. Each decision is a thread in the fabric of not only their future, but society as a whole. Each time we validate that authority, our inner voices remain silent, afraid to speak up and challenge their new reality. Authority bias begins at a very young age. So we have to take into account the early influence. It begins in the classroom and at home. Teachers and parents explaining the world. Children absorb it, not just facts, but frameworks, and possibly limiting beliefs of others, perspectives, ways of thinking. A confident teacher can shape understanding for years, sometimes for life. Correct or not, certainty carries weight. So now think back to when you were a child. Did you have an influential teacher or a mentor that you looked up to? How much has what they've said to you affected your entire life? Did they boost you up and give you confidence? Or were you talked down to? One of the things my mentor taught me was we are programmed for either success or failure by the time that we're 5. So please, feed love, light, and goodness and possibilities into the children of the world, because over time, these patterns become internalized. Even playground dynamics reflect authority. We have older peers, popular children, and assertive voices. These all influence what is accepted as truth. Remember, from a young age, humans are conditioned to respect certainty. Lessons repeated, praise and reprimand, social approval, these all train children to trust authority over instinct. Early guidance in questioning safely can shape a lifetime of independent thought. From there, these children go from the playground to the workplace, and the pattern is repeated. You have confidence, which would outweigh common sense. Meetings dominated by assertive voices causes groupthink. Disagreement feels risky. Many yield even when intuition or experience suggests caution, because often we are reminded of being a child and the power that authority holds. So many yield even when intuition or experience suggests caution or pause. Small acts of compliance accumulate. More norms solidify, and confidence appears more important than accuracy. Notice how a single confident voice can shift a team or group's decision, even when you know the facts. Social cost can override personal judgment. Small repeated acts quietly shape organized culture and behavior. Which brings us to consumerism and cultural authority. Advertising and social proof exploit bias. You hear things like clinically proven, celebrity endorsed, scientifically tested, or an influencer's opinion. Consumers and the community follow authority cues over evidence. Logos, packaging, professional appearance suddenly guide choices. Everyday decisions, what to buy, whom to trust, what to watch, are all shaped without conscious awareness. Authority infiltrates all areas of life. Recognizing it gives us choice, allowing awareness to guide decisions instead of blind acceptance. Which leads us to the most important form of authority bias, the voice within. Every encounter with authority brings two voices. One whispers, "This seems right." The other asks, "Does it?" Questioning can feel risky. Even minor situations, like debating policy or resisting a brand, reveal the same pattern. Authority carries weight disproportionate to actual correctness. Do you remember the conversations of Apple's Android and how they tried to make people feel less than for not choosing the Apple product?
It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, your political beliefs, or what color you are. It's no excuse for all of us not to love each other. You know what I'm saying? Right? Right? Yes. And I say this because I have a confession to make. I have an Android. Thank you, Androiders. You got one too? That's good. See how happy they were? Because that's the persecution they've been dealing with. You know what's wrong with having an Android? The shit you get from people for having an Android. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I used to think it was tough being black. But that ain't got shit on being a vegan with a Samsung. That's a whole nother level of racism right there. Like everybody's mad cool with you until they get that green bubble text in their phone. Right? And that's when all racism breaks loose. We don't text your kind around here, green bubble motherfucker. I'm like, damn, I was just trying to tell you happy birthday, man. White people, you want to know what it feels like to be black? Get an Android. Get an Android, and after 1 month, you'll be like, man, we gotta end this racism. I had no idea. This is how they've been treating niggas all this time. And I can say niggas now. Because I have an Android. And I know just how it feels. FYI, if you're white and you got an Android and you say the N-word, just know you'll be getting your ass whooped. By me and a black albino. You don't play that shit.
Notice the inner dialogue. Self-trust asserts itself here. Observing it is the first step toward reclaiming autonomy. Small acts of compliance compound. Certain voices dominate discourse. Narratives solidify, not always through truth, but through repetition, endorsement, and perceived authority. Unchecked bias shapes policy, culture, media, and dissent is delayed or normalized into silence. Over time, individuals lose self-trust. Collective perception shapes their reality. Patterns repeat across history, media, politics, and education. Awareness interrupts these cycles. Observing how authority sways decisions is the first act of reclaiming mental independence. Authority is a tool, not truth. Expertise matters, but awareness matters more. Start to notice when trust is automatic. Recognize unease. Pause and ask, do I understand this? Or am I accepting it? Grounded reflection accompanies knowledge. Authority guides, intuition partners. Authority shapes decisions, lives, and society. Awareness and questioning reclaim autonomy over perception. So, before you accept the next voice that sounds certain, ask yourself, if every belief I hold was influenced by something outside of me, where does my own truth begin? I'd love to hear where you land on this. Drop your thoughts in the comments, or continue the conversation in our Telegram group. We'll see you again next week, and if you found this of value, be sure to share it out. Let's spread the awareness. Thank you all so much for being here. A huge thanks to our mod Claudia, producer Carrie, and songwriter Todd. And to you, our listeners. Thank you for opening your mind. Remember, every story we believe shapes our reality. Stay curious and don't be afraid to question the narrative.
Only after the truth has come about, it walks into the room with lies thrown throughout. Can the minds of the sleeping and the lying about awake from their slumber to stumble on out of the mind control that has placed them inside rooms of deception the human brain provides? No place for logic in these darkened rooms. Common sense lost within the vacuum of construes, leaving no hope for rescue in this lying state. Rooms piling high with just more of the same. Unless, of course, the light of truth, like the break of day, finds its way through the keyhole of night, unlocking the way, opening the door for the dawning to be saved. That's what we do in this awakening and calling, locating room keys with names stamped upon them, and that one single truth which unlocks the minds of our brothers and sisters, one room at a time. Room service for the mind, one room at a time. Room service for the mind.